Welcome to Season 6 of the Hey Girl podcast with your host and my mom, Bethany Needham. This season, we get to hear stories from guests who are running their race in their place right where God has them. We hope that these stories will encourage and inspire you to do the same. If you want more information or to connect with my mom, go follow us on Instagram at HeyGirlGram, friend us on Facebook at HeyGirlPod, or even better, head to BethanyNeedham.com and sign up for our email list so that you can get all the Hey Girl tea. All right, it's time to grab a cup of coffee or your favorite seltzer. Here's my mom.
Hey girls, welcome back to another week of the Hey Girl podcast. This week, I am trying something new, and I am doing this because a few people in my life who will remain nameless in this moment have kind of challenged me to consider recording some semi-regular episodes with just myself without interviewing. And here's the deal. I realized quickly that the idea of sitting alone and recording an episode by myself actually scared me more than the most, intimidating guest that I've ever interviewed before. And I don't know what that says about me, but I did really sense that this was something that I needed to push through my fear and at least try it. I think there's so many things in our life that we let fear or insecurity or whatever it is hold us back. And this could have very well been one of them, but I have decided I don't need to worry about getting over the fear. We're just doing it scared. And worst case scenario, this is a flop. Y'all listen and you're like, wow, that was a waste of my time, which I guess on the front end of this, I just want to say sorry. If you get to the end, you feel like this is a waste of your time. That is not my intent. But I just want to be, I guess, transparent to say this is out of my comfort zone, and that's okay. It's okay for us to do things that are outside our comfort zone. Doesn't mean we always have to be doing things that freak us out or that are outside our comfort zone, but I think it's good once in a while. Let's do this thing. And so basically, knowing that I am very ADD, I have kind of given myself this outline. I'm not very good at scripting myself. I don't know if you've ever listened to other Hey Girl episodes and you're like, she sounds different, like just off. It was probably something that I attempted to script because I don't know why. I'm not very good at reading a script and making it sound like I'm not reading a script. So there is no script for this, which is terrifying. At the same time, I did write out an outline because I don't trust my brain to stay in a straight line. And you should not trust it either. It is wild and crazy and needs a whole lot of reining in. Let's just be real. So here's how I decided to do the outline. I kind of went back and forth on this, but I want to spend this episode and answer 3 questions. So I wrote out 3 questions that are for me, but maybe something I want you to think about for yourself as well. And here are the questions. What is God saying to me? What is he asking me to do? And then what am I doing about it? So what is God saying? What is he asking me to do? And what am I actually doing about it? Let's start with question number 1. What is God saying? Y'all, I have actually been in kind of a reading kick recently. Reading, podcasts, all of it. I don't know. I go through fits and spurts with this sometimes, but when I'm in the zone with reading, I am like in the zone. So what that looks like for me as someone who, it's not like I have all day to just sit and read, though that would be lovely. Truthfully, I don't have the attention span to do that. Like I love reading, but I can only do it for so long in one sitting. So right now I wake up early in the morning, get my coffee, and I first do my Bible reading. Right now I am in the process of reading through the Bible. My end date is my birthday this year. So it was kind of a before I turn 40. And so I have read through all of the New Testament up until Second Thessalonians recently. And so there's so much that God says in there. But there's been this theme that I will share with you in a moment that just keeps coming up. I have also, once I'm done my Bible reading, I have 1 or 2 books going at a time. And typically, unless the chapters are insanely long, I try and do 1 chapter in each book after I do my Bible reading. So I'm going to give you a quick, this is what I'm reading right now. Not that you care, nobody asked, but here I am telling you anyways. A favorite that I just finished reading maybe a week ago is David Platt's new book, Don't Hold Back. Man, if you have not read it, totally worth it. Don't even care where you're at in your race. Such a good book. It's Don't Hold Back, Leaving Behind the American Gospel to Follow Jesus Fully. Again, by David Platt. So worth it. Your God is Too Safe by Mark Buchanan. I've had this book sitting on my shelf forever, and I finally picked it up and read through it. It was wonderful. And then I love to read different kinds of books, like intentionally to kind of go all over the map. And so I've had this book sitting on my shelf. It's honestly kind of cheesy that I have it on my shelf because it's pretty old. In fact, I was like, I wonder if I interviewed Candace Cameron Bure now, if she would be like, I'm so happy you read that book. Or is it one that she's like, ugh, because when you like have stuff you did years and years ago that you wish you could not have out there for the public. But it's called Reshaping It All. And this is a motivation for physical and spiritual fitness. And honestly, it's had a lot of really helpful stuff in it especially as I've been working on Hey Girl Fitness and all of that. And then finally, I am in the midst of You Are the Girl for the Job by Jess Connolly. And oh my word, I cried in the first chapter, y'all, literally. And I'm not necessarily a crier when I read books, but it hit me in the feels and it's legit. So just that's kind of a snapshot of the kind of reading that I've been doing. I also recently read through Anonymous again, and which I recommend to anybody, anywhere. I'm sure there are others, but again, that's why I stacked these up. I knew I would forget on the spot. So if you ever want book recommendations, never hesitate to reach out. I'm actually kind of nerdy about it. If you're a friend in real life, you know that I hand out book recommendations, even if you don't care, because I just love it. And I love when people give me book recommendations. So feel free to share them as well. So that's kind of what I've been reading. That's where God has been speaking to me in all of these spaces through his word, through these other incredible authors. And the theme all along the way has been this theme of walking by the Spirit or walking in step with the Spirit. However you want to word that. I'm going to read for you real quick just a small portion from Galatians. I mean, there are so many places in the New Testament where I could read to you where God has just repeated this message to me of just really walking in alignment with him by his Spirit. But Galatians chapter 5, starting in verse 16, it says, so I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. Okay, real talk. I am wired on my own without the Holy Spirit intervening. I am wired as a very impulsive, overindulgent person. If you have any knowledge of the Enneagram, I am a 7 on the Enneagram, which is called the enthusiast. The joke in my family is I'm a 7-wing 7. But the thing that I heard about a 7 when I felt most seen is wherever it was that I read that 7 for a Enneagram 7, too much of a good thing is almost enough. I am telling you, that went straight to the heart for me because I really struggle with this. Because of that, I have been someone that's been very cautious and had to be careful about things like alcohol, or I honestly, I've not touched drugs in my life. And I think by the grace of God, because I think with my personality, oh my Lord, I don't even want to know where I would have landed. And so this is kind of a, I guess, daily struggle for me. And it's in everything, right? Like that overindulgent food has been an issue for me for years and years, like in terms of not abusing food in either direction, like not eating enough or way overeating. And so God, through his word, through some of these books, kind of bringing this idea of what does it look like for me to practice self control. This is like a fruit of the spirit, right? Like literally listed in the fruits of the spirit. The fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, self control right there. And for basically my whole life, but more importantly, since I've realized that I really struggle with self control, I've kind of just left it on that part of the list that's like, well, that's just not going to be me. This is just always going to be something I struggle with. And I can't say for sure. Maybe I will always struggle with it. But recently, this has been something that God's like, all right, girl, we're going to work on this. Not just know that we struggle with it, but we're going to work on it. And so basically, that answers the second question. What is he asking me to do? To practice self control. So, what am I doing about it? Okay. I want to share with you a few things. And I'll be honest, some of these things are brand new for me. Like, I'm not even through an entire week of trying this, but this is just right now how I am intentionally trying to be obedient to what I really sense God is calling me to do. Number one, my 5 a.m. alarm. I'm in a place in my life right now where I don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. Once upon a time, if I wanted time with Jesus before my kids woke up, it needed to be 5 a.m. Technically, it does not need to be right now, but I have found that 5 a.m. is kind of that sweet spot for me to have unhurried quiet time with Jesus. And at least for now, having that unhurried quiet time is giving me that space to, if I'm going to walk in step with the spirit, practice self control, I actually need to be listening and watching and sensing what is the spirit actually calling me to do? Like, what is God saying? And so for me, other people can do it other ways, but with my ADD, I'm just so easily distracted and everything else. I need that time that's just me and Jesus and first thing in the morning. And the reason for me, first thing in the morning, is because when I get going in my day, it feels like the volume on everything else goes to like a 10. I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but the world is moving so quickly. Even just the voice in my head of what I have to do today, like just that voice that's often speaks discouragement or lies to me. So for me to start out my day cranking up the volume on God's voice, it through his word and through his people, it's essential. I don't know how else to put it. Like, I need that first thing in the morning. So that's what I'm doing. 5 a.m. with Jesus. And then creating intentional space in my day whenever possible. I'll be honest, there are some days when I struggle with this more than others, but I am somebody that I will figure out a way to multitask on things that don't need to be multitasked just because I love the feeling of productivity. I'll give you an example. I was making dinner. I think it was last night. I was grilling chicken and I had laundry to do, but also the upstairs bathroom I hadn't quite finished cleaning. And so I literally would go down, I would put the thermometer in or basically I had thermometer in the chicken. So I was checking the temp, and then I would set a timer on my watch, like say 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, 5 minutes. I can fold the laundry in 5 minutes. So I'm folding the laundry. And then I go back, check the chicken. It's not quite hot enough. So I set an alarm again. I was like, 5 more minutes. Oh, I can vacuum the stairs. And like, that's my typical, like, if I'm just grooving, that I'm thriving. And so for me, being intentional with making space looks like sitting down when I still have 12 things to do and just letting myself be quiet and giving space for God to speak throughout my day, not just in that morning when I sit down alone with Him, but throughout my whole day, just creating that space. And sometimes it's 1 minute, sometimes it's like 30 minutes, whatever it looks like. If I'm not intentional, I know it won't happen. So I've been working very intentional with that. Third thing, this is a brand new one that I'm kind of excited about, but I don't know, also kind of embarrassed to share. I don't know why, maybe because it's like a new thing I'm trying and I'm hoping it helps me. But I have really been struggling recently with time management. And in the midst of time management, that has really increased my struggle, I guess, with self control. Because if I'm just not really sure what to do next, or I feel lost, or, get to the end of the day and I'm like, did I even do anything? I guess the intensity of my struggle in not overeating or whatever it is, it just seems worse. And so, as I was thinking about, okay, Lord, how can I practice self control in a way that keeps me focused? Because I am not naturally focused. Squirrel, if you know, you know. Okay, that's my reality. So, here's what I've been trying. I have a 3x5 card. I'm a journaler, so every single day I journal. My husband and I actually have a joke about how if you were to open my journal, which please do not, it's mine, not yours. My journal is a good representation of my brain because it, it literally is probably would be a good textbook definition for ADHD, to be honest. Like some days I have just like a list of things I'm thankful for. Some days I get as far as the date in like one sentence and then there's nothing else. I don't know if I got distracted, walked away, but whatever. Other days it's a to-do list, it's a goals list, it's all over the map. So I got this 3x5 card. I really spent some time thinking and praying over this. And what I did was I made 3 personal goals and 3 professional goals. And I put them on my 3x5 card. Now, these are longer term goals. For instance, I think I mentioned one of my goals before my 40th birthday this year is to read through the Bible. So that is on my 3x5 card. Another one is I wanted to do something outside of my comfort zone for my health. And so I put run a half marathon. And so there's, again, 3 personal, 3 professional. And so now each day when I go to my journal and I'm getting ready to put kind of a to-do list to help me track just for that day, to focus in on God, what would you have me do today? I have this card to kind of look at and be like, okay, so if I want to read through the Bible by the time I turn 40 in December, what do I need to do today to move closer to that goal? And so it sort of gives me that long-term, like reminding me the direction that I'm headed, but then lets me stay focused one day at a time. Because at least for me, I don't do well when I try and plan days out. I do so much better if I can just focus in on today. But at the same time, I want to know that what I'm doing today is moving me closer to where I want to be tomorrow, the next day, a month, a year, whatever from now. And so the 3x5 card is the, hey, these are the things you want to have done in whatever amount of time. So if every single day you just keep chipping away at that, then whatever, 6 months from now, 7 months from now, whatever it is, all of a sudden you put it on your to-do list and you're like, hey, I am finishing up reading through the Bible today. Like we did it. Or I just ran a half marathon because rather than just try and do it all impulsively last minute, I've just done a little bit every day and slowly built up to where that wasn't a terrifying goal to accomplish. So that is another thing I am trying, and I'll give you an update on that down the line. I mean, it's been a week. I will say in this first week, it has been incredibly helpful for me to be able to get things done and stay on course. And it has really helped. I know it sounds weird, but with my self control, with my following the spirit versus my own flesh. And so, yeah, we'll see a few months from now. Last thing on my list, and this is going to seem, I don't know, maybe stupid, but it's been a big deal for me. I have been so challenged in a lot of my reading lately on this idea of saying no to myself. When I was reading about, this walking by the spirit versus the flesh, and it talks about for the flesh desires what's contrary to the spirit what's contrary to the flesh, and this conflict between them. But then it goes on to say, you are not to do whatever you want. And as obvious as that might seem, for me, it was kind of a smack in the face because I think there are many, many times where I have fallen into that lie that I just want to do what I want to do. I want to be happy. I want to, you know, basically, I don't want to feel sadness. I don't want to feel struggle. Part of I'll use overeating as an example. I find the times when I overeat is so often when I don't want to say no to myself. I'm like, you know what? I just want to be able to have cookies and ice cream and pizza because that's what I want. And I don't want to be told differently. And never mind the fact that when I pile the cookies and pizza and ice cream, again, not in moderation, that it is unhealthy for me, that I feel terrible after, and that it's awful stewardship of this body that God has given me. And so saying no to myself has actually been, don't make fun of me, at least not to my face. Um, Out loud say no to myself. That's what it's taking right now for me. Yesterday was one of those days where I was just kind of off at the end of the day. I had a weird stretch of time between when I kind of wrapped up my day to when it was socially acceptable to go to bed. And so again, that sort of inner drive to hey, now would be a great time to grab a bowl of chips, sit down, watch some TV. You know what? You did a ton of work today. You earned it. And you know what? You didn't go over your calories or whatever today. So it's not even that big of a deal. Just do it. And I had to stop myself in the middle of this sort of I don't know, mind game. And as my flesh is just going after it, and just stop, looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, no. The answer is no. And I have realized, especially in recent days, that I am not good at telling myself no. And that with my wiring for overindulgence and lacking self control and all of these things, saying no to myself is actually a really good practice for me. I don't even necessarily think it's for everybody, but I do think for me, in growing closer to God and being more aligned with who he's called and created me to be, and following his spirit and not my every whim and whatever, that I actually need to intentionally practice saying no to myself. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been waking up early with Jesus. I've been creating space in my day just to hear from God and let him lead. I've been checking that 3x5 card before I make my to-do list and just make sure, as my husband says, because he's obviously into sports, that idea of just move the ball a little further down the field every single day. So I think of that okay, how am I going to move this ball a little further down the field? And so in the case of a half marathon, I am way further away from that goal then maybe even like reading through my Bible. So what that looks like for me right now is I'm not running a half marathon to get to that goal. Right now, I'm walking and increasing my miles walking as I start building the endurance so that I can then start running, so that I can then start running further. And it's just that each day, a little bit further down the field. So that, and then lastly, I am saying no. And that's my least favorite one, in case you were wondering. I don't like to hear no, whether it's for me or anybody else. I don't think I realized what a spoiled person I was until I started practicing this. But I know that it is something that for me in this season of my race that I need to be intentional with practicing, because y'all, self-control is a fruit of the spirit. And I don't know about you, but I want all the fruit of the spirit, and I want all of this yucky flesh, all of the parts of me that are just broken and disgusting. I want them gone. And so if that means, you know what, I got to say no to eating this whole thing of Ben and Jerry's, or if it's, I need to say no to skipping my workout because I'm feeling lazy today. If I need to say no to spending money that I don't have in my bank account and is too convenient on a credit card, like whatever it is, I need to start saying no. So that's my update. That's where things are at. God is saying, girlfriend, walk by the Spirit, practice self-control. And these are the things that I've been working on. Listen, if you listened all the way through, first of all, thank you. I love you for that. But second of all, maybe you have tips or ideas. Maybe you're somebody that's just so much better at this than I am. I actually would welcome any ideas, advice, books, verses, whatever could be helpful. I am all ears. So send them my way. I would absolutely love it. And you know what? If this is something that encouraged you today, reach out and let me know. I'm kind of on the fence about these solo episodes, but for now, we're going to give it a shot and see how it goes. This is not in replacement, by the way, of interviews. I love interviewing people, and we will continue to do that. But once in a while, we'll throw these in, maybe just for your entertainment, to be like, wow, she really is a hot mess. Good to know. Whatever I can do to encourage you in your race. All right, girls, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for hearing my story. And again, reach out, let me know where you're at, and especially if you have any advice on helping a girl out with practicing self-control.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to listen today. You make every hour spent recording in this closet worth it. Also, a huge thanks to Tony from IOK Productions for stepping in as our new editor and making all of those hours recording sound incredible. I can't wait to do this again next week. Bye, girl.